Okay, so when you guys do your homework in section 1.4, this is what it will look like, right? They'll ask you to determine if the following function values, and again, these are outputs, are possible, all right? And they basically explain your reasoning. So the first one deals with cosine. So let's just recall, what did we learn in the last video about the range of cosine? Well, it's limited between -1 and 1. So as long as my output falls within that range, there is an angle theta that's going to produce that output, right? That's what it means to be in the range. Somebody is going to produce you. Well, I don't know about you, but I would say, right, that 1/1000 is definitely between -1 and 1, right? It's actually really, really close to 0. So since this is a true statement, that means that this is a true statement, that it is possible. There is an angle that when I take the cosine of it will equal 0.001. Now what that angle is another story, all right? But we're just trying to see if it's even possible for cosine to equal 1/1000. So you have to be in the range. Sine of theta equals 3/2. Well, again, sine and cosine are very similar. The range is -1 to 1. So that means that this ratio, right, that y over r, has to be sitting between -1 and 1. However, right, ROI over R at the moment is equal to 3/2, which takes us, right, it's actually larger than 1. So this is a false statement. Or you can say it's not possible. Why? Because the range, right, the only possible outputs are from -1 to 1. You're giving me an output that's not there. So there's not an angle theta that can ever produce 3/2. All right, very important when we start thinking about solving equations later on, right? You might run into sine of theta equals 3/2, and you can say, well, there's no solution, not possible. All right, so let's keep moving forward. Next one, we have the tangent of theta equals 5. Well, what's the thing we learned about tangent? Its range is everybody. Anybody's going to work. All right, so 5 is just about anybody. So this is true. This is very, very possible, right? Because the range, you can produce any output, any outcome is possible with tangent. So there is some angle that will make the tangent equal to 5. As I stay on this, right, why don't we go ahead, right, and take a look at the cotangent, this guy right here, right? Kind of odd, right? Cotangent's equal to pi, which is about 3.1444, which definitely, right, falls within that range of -infinity to infinity. So is there an angle that produces that output? Yes, right? This is possible. And again, the reasoning is the range is anybody you want to consider. So any value, and that's kind of cool, right? There's going to be some input that will always produce pi. Using the coterminality, there's many of them. What about secant of theta equals to 1/2? Well, again, from our discussion, we've learned that the secant of theta has the following range, right? Anything below 1 or anything past 1. All right, so where's 1/2 lying at? What's lying with between -1 and 1, which isn't a valid part of the range. So this is not possible. Right? If we were solving an equation, you would say there's no solution. There is not a value, there's no angle value where the secant will produce 0.5 or 1/2. It's not in the range. And then last but not least, cosecant of theta. Well, again, the range is very similar to the secant. It's either below -1 or it's above +1, right? And -4/3, right? This is -1 and 1/3, which definitely falls within that interval. So yes, this is possible because of our domain and range values. All right, so I think that's about it in terms of homework. That's just, you're going to have to kind of memorize these ranges, get them in order. Again, as we do more and redefine things, hopefully what you've memorized will just start to make more and more sense as we learn more, as we do more, and move forward. So again, as a review, cosine and sine are limited, right? Their range, their outputs are just from -1 to 1, so very, very, very limited outputs. Tangent and cotangents are wonderful, right? Just about anything can come out of them. And then secant and cosecant are similar in that you can always be below -1 or above +1 as potential outputs. All right, so try to get those in your memory banks. We'll be using them in the future. Talk to you guys later in the next video.